Welcome to Prognosis University. In this video, we're going to summarize the EHR user interface homepage. Once you have successfully logged into the system, all users, regardless of permissions, will get the same landing page as you see here, which is referred to as the homepage. No matter what you're doing within the system, you can always come back here to the home page by tapping the little house icon here in the upper left. Now, dissecting the home page here for a moment, you'll notice in the upper section we have the system banner. It starts with your corporate logo and name, the navigation arrows and the house icon I just mentioned, as well as the menu tabs. And then over here to the right, there is a system tray of icons. And in the upper right, you'll notice that there is a welcome to the user. Now, this system banner is static, meaning whatever you do within Prognosis once you've logged in, this part is always present. Now, the section down here below is what changes based upon your interaction. What we're looking at right now is the home page, and that is what we're going to discuss in this video. You'll notice on the left-hand side there are two tabs, the Appointments tab, which is the default view, and the Open Encounters tab. Notice as I toggled, the red horizontal bar moved to indicate which tab I am looking at, and that is the one that is currently in focus. To the right of those tabs, we have some additional labels, the filter, manage columns, and in this case, I have an assigned to provider because I am logged in as a medical assistant. If I were logged in as a provider, this would say assign clinical staff. And if I were logged in as a non-clinical person, this tab would not exist at all. Now, once you have assigned yourself, there will be an indicator here of how many providers you are assigned to. If we follow our eyes across the screen, there is also then an icon to get into the dashboard as well as the help. Now, this viewing section is what changes based upon what you're doing in the system. So I mentioned that the default view is the Appointment tab, which is what we're looking at. You may notice as you're watching this video that the screen periodically blinks, and that is because there is an auto refresh. That way, when patients are coming and going at the front desk, checking in, the doctor may be ordering tests. This is continually updating within a 60-second increment, so you always know the latest status of your patients that day. Now, on the Appointments tab, you will notice I have a calendar widget that will display the day and date that you are viewing. When you tap the arrow icon to the left, that is going to navigate you backwards one day at a time. And then similarly, if you tap the arrow icon to the right, it will navigate you forward one day at a time. If you want to go to a completely different date, tap the actual date in the middle, which opens up the navigation calendar. The capital T will always bring you back to the current day, but if you notice to the left, there is either a single arrow or a double arrow, and also on the right. The single arrow is going to be incremented 1 month at a time, either backwards or forwards, and then the double arrow is going to be year, backwards or forwards. Now that applies only to the Appointments tab. Notice when I select the Open Encounters tab, that calendar widget disappears. And that is because your Open Encounters is a cumulative list of every encounter that has been started and not yet completed. Whereas the Appointments tab is specific to a calendar date. So you're able to look at a specific date of service. To the right of these tabs, you'll notice we have the filter and the manage columns. And those options are available regardless of which tab you have in focus. And it's important to note that they are specific to the tab you have in focus. So for instance, when I'm on my Appointment tab and I select my filter, this will help me arrange the contents of my appointment screen within that calendar date I'm viewing by specific provider, visit type, visit status, and/or location. Now by default, I have everything selected. Now across the top row here where you have the headings, it is a toggle to single click to deselect all, retap to select all. Maybe you're afloat. You can filter your screen accordingly, which makes it a more manageable schedule that day for you. For instance, if I go ahead now and deselect all of the doctors and choose Rajesh Kuthrapali only, leaving everything else selected to all, you'll notice I'm down to just the one appointment because I've hidden all of the other providers. If I go back in and choose Dr. Cooper, now his are intermingled in as well. And notice the little green dot on top of the funnel, which indicates I have defined some filters. Now those filters will remain even after you log out of the system, and they are user specific. If I go to my Open Encounters tab, notice I do not have that green dot because the filter is tab specific. These filters, of course, are utilized based upon your workflow and what your needs are within the clinic. It's important to remember this logic because for those of you that do float or work amongst different staff and you like to use this feature, maybe yesterday you were working it on the bay, you set your filter accordingly, and now today you're at the sports clinic and all of a sudden you don't see any of your patients. So you'll want to remember to come in here and reset your filters to all. Otherwise, if you forget to reset them, you may be looking for a patient and not be able to find it, and you'll think that there's a system error. The Manage Columns tab allows you to control what you see down here in your viewing area. For instance, right now you'll see I have the scheduled time, the actual time the patient arrived, the patient's name, their gender, etc. Well, based upon your workflow and your level of interaction, you may or may not like this arrangement of data. You may want to hide data. Maybe you don't use room numbers because there's only a single provider in your office. Maybe you don't do the order sheet, so you don't care about the process flag. So what you can do is go into the Manage Columns. On the left-hand side, you have all of the available fields that can be displayed. And you notice I'm just expanding or collapsing by clicking on the heading. The ones here on the left that are grayed out are already visible over here on the right. The ones on the left with the dark arrow and label are available to be displayed. Now, for instance, maybe you want to know the patient's date of birth and age. So you tap the black arrow on the left, which moves it over here to the right. Now, it automatically adds it at the end of your list. If I go ahead and hit apply, you will notice you don't see it yet, but down here at the bottom, my scroll bar has increased. And if I scroll all the way over there, I will see it. So if you want to display multiple columns, but you don't have the screen real estate due to a small monitor, the scroll bar allows you to navigate back and forth. Now maybe you want that date of birth visible over here with the patient's name and gender. When you're in the Manage Columns, notice when you hover over, you get this domino looking icon. And when your cursor turns into that drag and drop, you can simply move it up to where you want it to be. And then once you tap apply, now you have your date of birth in between the name and the gender. That Manage Columns is also applicable to each user. So everyone in the practice can customize the screen to display the relevant data for him or herself. Now I mentioned the assigned to providers or assigned to clinician, if you are logged in as a provider, is not present for non-clinical staff. This allows you to assign yourself to the specific physician or physicians that you are working with. Now there are some shortcuts available throughout the system to where this will default and make it more time efficient for the provider in corresponding with his or her assigned staff. However, if you work with all of the providers in the practice, most will leave this defaulting to all. And that way there are no restrictions. Now to the far right, the system icons again are always present and they are conditional or situational. So right now you'll notice this new icon that is flashing. That is to indicate to me that there has been an upgrade and there are some release notes that I can read to familiarize myself with what those upgrades are. This icon will come and go based upon whether or not there is a recent upgrade. Some of these other features you may not have present based upon your roles in the practice or if the feature is turned on or not, such as the dashboards, the billing toggle, and so on. Now all users will have the message compose. as well as the take appointment and patient search icons. Now, I'm not going into what each of these functions do in this video because they are all covered in their own individual videos as applicable. The alert icon in this example right now you see is color coded to indicate I have new unread alerts. That is a shortcut to your inbox of messages. Once you have viewed it, notice the icon changes. As a new alert comes in and this homepage auto refreshes, that icon color may refresh to indicate new messages have arrived. You have your shortcut to the Resource Center and the online help, as well as system level information. And then these last two icons are of significance due to PHI and keeping your computer secure. For instance, if you need to step away, whether it's for a lunch break, restroom break, etc., but you don't want to log out, then you simply lock your computer. And this will put on the screen lock. And when you come back, you simply unlock it by entering your password. That way you do not have to stop what you were doing. If you're going to log out for the day, however, then you want to go ahead and tap the red log out button, and this will completely log you out of the system. And then the last feature here on the home page, down here in the lower right, you will have navigations. Now, in my training environment, I've only got a few appointments set up right now, so you're seeing page 1 of 1, and my navigation arrows are grayed out. Based upon volume, there's a setting that controls how many appointments you see per page. And based upon the size of the monitors you use in your office, you may set that value to 10, 15, 20, whatever you like. And then as your appointments are incremented, you will then get page 2, page 3, page 4. And this allows you then to navigate between those pages on your schedule. As mentioned at the onset, there are multiple videos here within the Prognosis University dealing with the specific functionality and interactions that Prognosis provides. So please feel free to check all of them out as is relevant for your job.